She worked for years in a mansion that never felt like home, until the day she was thrown out, accused, humiliated, forgotten. But what no one knew was that the real owner of that mansion had been missing her for years, because the maid they threw away was her own daughter. This is the story of betrayal, blood, and the twisted secrets hidden behind luxury walls. The sound of the wind sliced through the gardens of the Ávila mansion like invisible blades. Leaves danced around the marble statues, and the wrought iron gate groaned as Elena passed through it, silver bucket in hand. She was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. For 5 years, she had cleaned every corner of that house without ever being truly seen, except when something went wrong. The marble floor, the scent of expensive flowers, and the echo of her employer's footsteps were constant reminders that this place would never belong to her. But something about that morning felt different. The servants were whispering in the corridors. "The lady has returned," Elena frowned. The mistress of the house, Doña Cecilia Ávila, had been away for months. A retreat in Europe, they said. No one knew why she had returned so suddenly, but the tension in the air was palpable. In the main hall, the grandfather clock struck 7 as Clara, the head housekeeper, marched through the corridor wearing her usual look of disdain. "Elena," she barked, her voice snapping like a whip. "The floor of the hall is filthy. Are you trying to embarrass me?" Elena lowered her head. "Yes, ma'am. I've finished upstairs. I'll take care of it now." But Clara stepped closer, gripping her face tightly. "You talk too much, girl. And don't give me that pitiful look. Remember, you're only here because I allow it." Elena swallowed hard. What Clara didn't know, what no one knew, was that Elena had always felt something strange about that house. A bitter familiarity, a portrait in the corridor, a woman with pale eyes just like hers. Sometimes, while scrubbing the stairs, she would catch herself staring at that painting, trying to understand why the face unsettled her so deeply. But before she could sink into that thought, she heard the sound of a car pulling up outside. The driver opened the door, and a tall woman with silver hair stepped out, her movements sharp and deliberate. It was Doña Cecilia. A murmur rippled through the hall, the kind of whisper that runs like a breeze before a storm. Every servant lined up, heads bowed, waiting for orders. But when Cecilia's eyes met Elena's, something, for the briefest instant, froze time itself. A flash of recognition passed through the older woman's gaze, and then it was gone, as if it had never been there. "Who is that?" the matriarch asked, her tone cold and distant. Clara rushed to answer. "A new maid, madam. Inexperienced, but obedient enough," Cecilia simply nodded. "Keep her out of my quarters." The words cut like knives. Elena lowered her head and went back to work, trying to hide the tears that burned behind her eyes. But that night, when the mansion slept, something woke her. A sound, muffled crying coming from the mistress's room. Elena crept closer, footsteps soft against the marble, and pressed her ear to the door. "I can't hide it anymore. She's here," Cecilia's trembling voice whispered. "If he finds out, everything will be lost." Elena stepped back, heart pounding. Who was she talking about? And why did that? The mansion clock struck 2 in the morning, and the hallway on the second floor breathed a cold, almost supernatural. The motion lights flickered, as if an invisible lung was inhaling the air and exhaling it back in shivers of electricity. Elena, clutching her battered flashlight, walked silently across the carpet that swallowed both footsteps and secrets. The muffled sob she had heard earlier still echoed in her mind. "She's here," like a message carved with a knife into her ribs. At the end of the hallway, the portrait of the woman with pale eyes waited. There was something about that painting that wasn't just pigment and varnish. The pupils seemed to reflect light as if filled with water, and the lips held the shadow of a smile that wasn't quite a smile. Elena stepped closer, searching for an explanation for the unease. The frame, heavy, carved, ornate, bore twisting vines in gold. And hidden among them, a single engraved letter. CC for Cecilia? C for casa? C for child? Elena reached out, her fingers brushing the letter. The wood shifted just barely, as if the wall itself exhaled. A faint click echoed from behind the plaster. The painting tilted forward, and in its wake, A narrow slit appeared. Her breath caught. She pushed. The portrait swung open, revealing a hollow space behind the wall. Inside, a small music box, a yellowed envelope, and a piece of fabric lay hidden like buried confessions. Elena's pulse thundered. She took the envelope. On the back, neat handwriting read, "For when it becomes impossible to hide." Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was an old, faded photograph, a young Cecilia Ávila cradling a baby in her arms. The woman's face glowed with something Elena had never seen in her before: tenderness, almost sacred. In the corner, written in blue ink, "For Elena." The flashlight almost slipped from her hand. Her breath froze. Her name. But how? A floorboard creaked behind her. Heavy steps, deliberate, approaching. Elena hastily returned the photo to the wall, swung the portrait back into place, and hid her flashlight under her apron. The smell of perfume and iron filled the corridor. "Clara. What are you doing awake?" The housekeeper's voice cut through the dark. "It's 2 a.m. Are you stealing, Elena?" "I ain't heard a noise. I came to check." Clara stepped closer, her smile thin and sharp. "Curiosity kills, girl. And in this house, curiosity of the poor gets them buried." The word landed like a hammer. Elena said nothing. Clara leaned in, her gaze tracing the young woman's face. Something flickered there, a twitch of recognition, then vanished. "Go back to your quarters, and forget whatever you heard." Elena nodded, but her mind didn't. The photo burned in her pocket like a live coal. "For Elena." The words pulsed in her skull. She returned to her small room and opened the music box. The melody that drifted out was simple, too fragile, like a lullaby half-remembered. Then, a click. A hidden compartment slid open, revealing a silver locket engraved with 2 intertwined initials, C and E Cecilia. Elena. Her breath broke. She opened it. Inside, a lock of brown hair and a tiny photo of the same woman from the painting, smiling at someone unseen. A baby, maybe. But what Elena would discover in the next hours wasn't a secret. It was a sentence. Morning came pale, colorless. The mansion awoke in routine cruelty. Silver to polish, whispers to swallow, orders to obey. But a new visitor arrived. Viter, the family lawyer. A man whose smile was a signature, not a gesture. He climbed to Cecilia's office, and Elena followed with a tray of coffee. The door was ajar. Inside, their voices tangled in polite venom. "We can't delay anymore, Cecilia," said Viter. "The will must be sealed before surprises appear." "Surprises?" Cecilia's tone was sharp. "What kind of surprises, Viter?" "Servant. Old affairs. Invented heirs. This house has too many eyes. And eyes talk." Elena froze in the hallway. "Invented heirs." Her hands trembled. The tray shook. "Bring the coffee," Cecilia ordered coldly. Elena entered, eyes low. Still, she could feel Viter's gaze crawling over her like a shadow. As she set the cups down, her sleeve slid up slightly, revealing a crescent-shaped birthmark on her wrist. Cecilia's eyes locked on it. Her expression faltered. For one fleeting second, her soul remembered something her mind had tried to forget. "Thank you," she murmured faintly. Elena bowed and turned to leave. But Viter's voice stopped her. "What's your name, girl?" "Elena. Pretty. Old-fashioned." He smiled. "Old names often carry old records." The words coiled around her spine. She left the office with the air of someone who suddenly had nowhere to breathe. Down the hall, her thoughts spun. The photo, the locket, the initials, the mark. There was only one way to know. She made her way to the archive room, behind the library, a door of thick oak that usually stayed locked. But today, it was open. Inside, shelves of gray boxes, years labeled in dust, 1992, 1998, 2001, 2004. Her hands trembled as she pulled the 2004 box. Inside, birth records, hospital notes, and a file marked C. Ávila, Confidential delivery. She opened it, and the world shrank to a piece of paper. Date: April 12, 2004. Mother: Cecilia Ávila. Status: complications during labor. Stapled to the back, a small note: transfer of newborn for safety reasons. Child's name: E. Ng. The rest was blacked out with ink. Elena stared at the letter E. It stared back. The door creaked. Clara. "I told you to forget," she said, stepping forward. Her face was carved stone. This house listens, and it obeys whoever controls it. "Why didn't you tell me?" Elena whispered. Clara's lips curled. "What do you want, girl? A seat at the table? Money? Blood? You have none of that." Then she paused. Her eyes flicked again to the girl's face, the mark on her wrist. "Unless—" Silence swallowed them. Then Clara spoke again, voice low. "Mr. Veeder wants to see you. In the garden, now, and take everything that belongs to you." That phrase, "everything that belongs to you," hit like a verdict. In the garden, beneath the ancient fig tree, Vitor waited, 2 guards behind him. The gravel crunched like broken glass beneath her shoes. "It's over," he said simply. "You're dismissed." The housekeeper found irregularities, missing keys, missing items. His smile was polished evil. "You'll be compensated, of course. But this house doesn't forgive curiosity." "I didn't take anything," Elena said. "Truth," he replied, "is a matter of signature. And I hold the pen." Clara arrived with a bundle. Her uniforms, shoes, a prayer book. Something small rolled from it and hit the gravel with a metallic clink. The locket, Vitor bent down, picked it up and opened it. His jaw tightened, only for a second. Then he snapped it shut and pocketed it. "House property," he said. The guards escorted her to the gate. The wind rose. The mansion loomed behind her like a beast pretending to sleep. And then, it happened. A black limousine screeched to a halt. The door opened, and Cecilia Ávila stepped out. No jewelry, no power mask, only a trembling woman who looked like she had just woken from a long nightmare. When she saw Elena, shivering outside the gate, she ran. Not walked. Ran. Her heels cut through the gravel. Her breath breaking into sobs. "Elena!" she cried. "Elena, my God!" The guard stepped aside instinctively. Vitor froze, his plans collapsing in silence. Clara stood still, her fists white. Cecilia reached her. And then she hugged her. Not as a mistress, not as a savior, but as a mother finding the child she'd lost to time and guilt. Her hands cupped Elena's face, her eyes flooding. She looked down at the mark on the girl's wrist, the crescent moon. Her lips trembled. "My daughter," Cecilia whispered. "Forgive me." The world stopped. Vitor took a step forward. "Madame, you can't—" "Silence, Vitor." Her voice thundered like the storm they both knew was coming. "What I can't do is keep living in this theater of lies." Elena's knees weakened. Her heart tried to remember how to beat in freedom. Cecilia turned to Vitor, her tone now ice. "Return what's hers." He hesitated, then handed her the locket. Elena closed it in her palm, tears spilling. "Prepare the meeting room," Cecilia said to Clara. "Now. And you, Vitor. Bring the records. The truth comes out today." Elena realized the embrace wasn't the end of her story. It was only the beginning, because the secrets buried in that mansion were about to dig their way out, and the truth locked inside the family's vault came with a price none of them were ready to pay. The rain began minutes after the embrace, as if the sky itself exhaled all the secrets it had been forced to hold. Thunder rolled behind the mansion's towers, and the air turned heavy with the scent of iron and soil. Inside, the corridors once cold and quiet were now alive with murmurs. Servants whispered about what they'd seen at the gate. Madame hugging the maid, calling her daughter. The house, after years of silence, was speaking again. Cecilia walked beside Elena through the marble hallway, her hand gripping the girl's wrist as if afraid someone might steal her away again. The chandeliers above flickered. Clara followed a few steps behind, stiff, silent, her face unreadable. And behind her, Vitor, eyes like a wolf denied its prey. They stopped at the door of the meeting room, the same room where, for decades, fortunes were divided, names erased, and legacies rewritten. Cecilia turned to Elena. Before we open those records, you must understand. Not everything written in them is true. Elena met her gaze. Then tell me what is. The matriarch hesitated. For the first time, the woman who commanded armies of silence looked afraid. Her voice trembled. The night you were born, there was a fire. The night of smoke and blood. Cecilia's eyes drifted into the past. The story unfolded like the mansion itself, beautiful on the outside, burning beneath. Your father, Marcello, was not the man the world knew, she began. He was kind once. Before the money, before the sickness. Her hand tightened around the edge of the table. He didn't want a daughter. He wanted an heir. When he saw you, a fragile little girl, he said you'd be sent away, for your own safety. Elena's heartbeat quickened. Sent away? To where? To a convent, Cecilia whispered. But the carriage never arrived. The driver disappeared that night. They told me both of you were dead. The carriage burned down by the old bridge. A tear slid down her cheek. But I never saw your body, Elena. I searched for years, and when they told me I was losing my mind, I let them lock away my grief. The house became my prison. Elena's throat tightened. The mansion she'd served all her life had been the same one that took her away. But one question sliced through the fog. If you believed I was dead, then who raised me? Cecilia looked at Clara. The confession. For the first time that night, the housekeeper's voice faltered. It was me, Clara said, her words dropping like stones. I found the baby near the river that night. I didn't know who she was, just that she was alive. Her eyes glistened with something between guilt and defiance. The pendant she had, the one with your initials, I kept it hidden. When I realized she might be yours, it was too late. The lawyer had rewritten the birth records. He told me to stay silent, or I'd end up buried where the others were. Elena froze. The others? Cecilia turned sharply to Vitor. Explain yourself. The man smiled faintly, the kind of smile that prefers daggers to words. Every empire has its foundation, madam. Yours was built on one, control. I only continued your husband's legacy. And the girl? A loose thread in the family tapestry. I was protecting your name. By stealing my daughter? Cecilia's voice shook the chandeliers. By preserving your inheritance, he corrected. Do you think society would have respected the Ávila family if they knew your child had been raised as a maid? No, madam, you're welcome. Cecilia rose from her chair, trembling. You call this protection? You erased her life. I gave her a life, Vitor replied. Better than the grave, wouldn't you say? Elena could barely breathe. Every truth that fell into the room carried another beneath it. She looked at Clara. You knew all these years? And said nothing. Clara's chin quivered. I tried, Elena, but this house doesn't forgive truth. It buries it. The vault. Cecilia motioned toward the corridor. We end this now. In the vault. They descended the spiral stairs beneath the west wing, a part of the mansion Elena had never seen. The air grew colder with each step, damp with age and secrets. At the end stood a massive steel door, the family vault, sealed with both a key and a fingerprint lock. Cecilia pressed her trembling hand to the scanner. The lock hissed open. Inside, rows of shelves glinted with documents. Jewels and boxes marked confidential. Vitor's eyes darted nervously, like a thief watching his crimes come to life. Cecilia grabbed a file from the top shelf and threw it onto the table. The truth of this family is written here. Births, deaths, transactions, lies. You forged half of them, didn't you? Vitor smirked. Forgery is such an ugly word, madam. I prefer preservation. Elena stepped forward, picking up a document. It was an adoption decree. Her name printed in fading ink, stamped and signed. But the signature wasn't Cecilia's. It was Vitor's. You signed as her guardian, she said in disbelief. You sold me. He tilted his head, unapologetic. Everyone has a price, Elena, even orphans. Especially orphans. Cecilia's fury broke through her composure. She slapped him, a sound like glass shattering in the dark. Peter's cheek reddened, but his eyes only grew darker. "Careful, madam. You wouldn't want your daughter to see what kind of monster she truly comes from." Silence. The words hit harder than the slap. Elena turned to her mother, confusion thick in her voice. "What does he mean?" Cecilia's face went pale. "Don't listen to him." Peter laughed softly. "But she should. After all, the truth is the only inheritance she's getting." He reached for another file, this one sealed with red wax. Cecilia lunged to stop him, but he opened it first. Inside, a set of black and white photos. Elena's eyes widened. The images showed Cecilia, years younger, standing over a man's body, covered in blood. "Your husband's death," Peter said quietly. "It wasn't an accident, and the maid you thought you lost that night wasn't the only one who disappeared." Elena's breath hitched. Cecilia's tears turned to panic. The thunder outside roared like a verdict. "Enough," Cecilia cried. "You don't know what happened that night." "Oh, I do," he said, stepping closer. "I've known for 20 years. And I kept your secret, Cecilia, because secrets pay well." He turned toward Elena. "Now tell me, girl, still want to be part of this family?" Elena's eyes flicked from her mother's trembling hands to the blood-stained photos on the table. The room felt smaller, the air thick with betrayal. For the first time, she didn't know who to fear more. The lawyer, the housekeeper, or the woman who called herself her mother. Outside, lightning struck the fig tree, splitting it in half. The entire mansion shuddered. In that instant, something inside the vault clicked, an old mechanism, hidden behind the walls, coming alive again. A secret door began to open, stone grinding against stone. Cecilia froze. "No, not that. Not now." Elena turned toward her. "What's in there?" Cecilia didn't answer. The door creaked wider, revealing darkness deeper than shadow itself. From inside came the faint hum of a machine, and the smell of decay. Peter smiled. "Looks like the mansion wants to finish the story itself." The stone door groaned open like a throat remembering how to scream. Cold air poured out, thick, ancient, and heavy with rot. Inside, the dark wasn't empty. It watched. Elena felt it before she saw it. A pressure, like invisible fingers pushing against her chest. The dim light from the vault barely reached the threshold of the hidden room. Every instinct told her to run. But something else, something older, pulled her forward. Cecilia's voice broke the silence. "We sealed this place years ago. No one was supposed to find it." Peter smiled from the shadows. "And yet here we are. You should have known, madam. Walls never keep the past out. They only trap it inside." The metallic hum grew louder. Elena stepped in first. The hidden chamber. The room was small, circular, carved directly into the stone foundations of the mansion. Rust streaked the walls. In the center, a medical cot, yellowed with age, strapped with leather belts. Beside it, old machines blinked faintly, monitors still alive despite the decades. And on the wall above them, a photograph, a young woman, identical to Cecilia, but with darker eyes, smiling beside a crib. Elena's hand trembled. Who is she?" Cecilia stepped closer, her breath unsteady. "I'm my sister, Camilla." The name echoed, hollow and final. Vitor's grin widened. "Ah, the twin. The one the Ávila family erased from history. Funny how ghosts never stay buried." Elena turned, eyes wide. "Twin?" Cecilia nodded slowly. "We were identical, but only one of us was chosen to inherit the estate. Father said 2 Ávila women would confuse the legacy. Camilla was declared dead at birth." A tear slid down her cheek. "But she wasn't. They hid her here, in this room, under the care of your grandfather's doctors. She was sick, unstable, they said. I was forbidden to see her." Elena's voice shook. "Why was she locked up?" Peter answered instead. "Because she wasn't sick. She was dangerous. She wanted the inheritance and she'd do anything for it. Even," he glanced toward Cecilia, the shadow of a smirk forming, "to even make sure her sister never lived to claim it." Cecilia's hand struck him across the face before he could finish. "Shut your mouth." But Elena's mind had already begun to fracture under the weight of it all. The truth behind the fire. The machines flickered, then died with a final sigh. Elena stepped closer to the cot. Something glittered on the ground, a burned medical tag with faded lettering. She picked it up. Patient C. Ávila, date April 12th, 2004, her birth date. She turned to Cecilia, eyes wide. That's my date of birth, Cecilia shook her head. No, Elena, that can't be. But before she could finish, Vitor interrupted softly. It's time, madam. Tell her who she really is. The air thickened. Cecilia's knees weakened. She grabbed the edge of the cot. Tears welled again, but this time they weren't for grief. They were for fear. Elena, her voice barely carried. You were born that night. But not to me alone. Elena frowned. What do you mean? Cecilia's lips trembled. Camilla gave birth to a stillborn child. She couldn't accept it. She came to me begging for help. The fire. It started when she tried to take you from my arms. Her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to replace her dead baby with you. Elena's world tilted. Vitor chuckled under his breath. So there it is! The family's greatest sin. You weren't just stolen, Elena. You were swapped. The words hit her like a slap. The ground beneath her seemed to sway. You mean, I'm not even... You are my daughter, Cecilia shouted through her tears. I raised you inside my heart, even when the world told me you were gone. You are mine. But the conviction in her voice couldn't erase the seed of doubt already blooming in Elena's mind. Because on the table beside the cot, half buried under dust, lay another photo. 2 newborns, 2 wristbands, both marked with the same date, but one bore the name Elena, the other Clara. Elena's eyes lifted slowly toward the housekeeper, who stood motionless at the door. The older woman's face had turned ashen. Clara, Elena whispered. That's your real name? Clara didn't answer. Her silence said more than words could. Vitor's smile spread wider. And that, dear Elena, is why she kept you close. Why she protected you. And why she feared this room. Cecilia turned to the housekeeper, horrified. Tell me it's not true. Clara's lips parted. For a moment, she was the servant again. Obedient, loyal, silent. But then her voice broke. It's true, she said, tears streaming. I wasn't supposed to survive the fire, but Camilla pulled me out. She told me I owed her, and I've been paying that debt ever since. The storm outside roared in unison with the silence that followed. Elena staggered back, her whole body trembling. Every truth she'd been given had been a lie wrapped in love. The living memory. Suddenly, the monitors sparked to life again, static buzzing through the room. The photograph on the wall fell, revealing a hidden screen behind it. A recording began to play, distorted but unmistakable. A woman's voice, soft, calm, Camilla. If you're watching this, then the house has opened itself again. I warned them this day would come. They thought they could bury me, but blood always finds its way home. Cecilia fell to her knees, sobbing. Elena's eyes locked on the screen, transfixed. My child will take back what was stolen. My child will wear the Ávila name again. The image flickered. And for the briefest second, Elena saw her own reflection overlapping with Camilla's face on the screen. The same eyes, the same scar above the brow, the same half-smile. The monitor cut to black. Elena's voice trembled. What if I'm not your daughter, Cecilia? What if I'm hers? Cecilia rose slowly, shaking her head. You're not her. You can't be. But the silence that followed wasn't certainty. It was fear. Thunder shook the mansion again, and from somewhere deep within the walls came the sound of a door slamming shut. The lights died. All that remained was the flicker of the lightning and the faint echo of the music box melody from upstairs. Vitor's voice whispered through the dark. It doesn't matter whose daughter she is. The mansion has already chosen its heir. And then, total blackness. Darkness swallowed the vault. Somewhere overhead, the storm wound itself tighter around the bones of the mansion, pulling at the rafters like a beast at a cage. In the pitch black, Elena could hear everything. the shallow drag of Cecilia's breath, the soft whimper of old hinges, the velvet scrape of leather soles as Vitor shifted his weight closer to the table of secrets. Then, click. A strip of red emergency light bled to life along the baseboards, turning stone and skin the color of warning. Shadows lengthened into knives. The hidden chamber yawned beside them, its stale breath crawling out over the floor. "Elena," Cecilia whispered, fingers finding her daughter's hand. "Stay with me." "I'm here," Elena answered, though the words felt smaller than the room. Clara appeared in the doorway with a trembling candle, the flame bending violently each time thunder dragged its nails across the sky. "The generator," she said. "It only powers the alarms and the emergency lights." "Perfect," Vitor replied, voice smoothed back to silk. "We'll keep things intimate." He stepped forward. The red light caught on the edge of something metallic in his hand. No gun, not yet, but a lighter, polished and hungry. He toyed with it, thumb rolling the wheel like a prayer he was eager to recite. "Don't," Cecilia warned. "Every page in here is a death certificate, with your name on it." "Or yours," he said softly. He flicked the lighter. A small, obedient sun bloomed above his palm. But what Elena did next would push the story off its rails. She reached for the photograph that had fallen from the hidden room's wall, the one that covered the screen, her fingers tracing the jagged back edge. Something snagged. A resistance. She turned it over and saw what the frame had been hiding all along, a narrow seam running its length, a secret inside a secret. She pressed the seam. A thin metal case slid out with the reluctance of a confession. On its face, a number stamped deep, 041204. Her birthday. Vitor's smile faltered. "Where did you find that?" Elena met his eyes and didn't blink. "In the room that wasn't supposed to exist." She placed the case on the table between them. No lock, just a catch, stiff with age. She pried it open. Inside, a bundle of onion skin pages tied with medical twine, and a plastic sleeve holding 2 tiny inked footprints, the kind taken in the hospital from newborn heels. Beneath them, a no-nonsense handwriting, Infant A and Infant B. The date matched the number stamped on the case, and below that, a third slip of paper, short and brutal as a verdict. Switch ordered by Monsieur Ávila. Witness, V. Duarte. Nurse refused. Removed from post. Vitor's face didn't move, but the red light revealed the truth anyway, a slow pulse throbbing at his temple. Cecilia's voice fractured. "Marcelo ordered a switch?" The lawyer's tone cooled. "He wanted a son. The stillbirth ruined everything. When he saw 2 girls, he panicked. I simply structured options." "Options," Cecilia repeated, the word curdling. "You poisoned every room in this house with that word." Elena lifted the footprints. Infant A's left heel bore a crescent-shaped smear of ink, accidental but unmistakable. A crescent that matched the birthmark on her wrist, as if fate had tried to sign its name and was dragged away before finishing. Clara stepped closer, candle quivering. "Let me see." Elena held the page steady. The candlelight stuttered. Clara's throat worked around a swallow that wouldn't go down. "I carried you," she whispered. "Through smoke and water. I thought I saved a stranger. I may have saved a lie." "Not a lie," Cecilia said fiercely. "A life." Vitor's lighter flared again, not playful now, but ravenous. "Give me the case." "No," Elena said. "What you think you want," he murmured. "You don't. You think truth will tuck you in at night. It won't. It will haunt you. It will cost you everything that feels safe in your bones. Then we'll bankrupt our bones," Elena said, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded. But the mansion had one more card to play. From the hidden room, the dead screen spat a line of static, coughed, and bled back to gray. The recording returned without sound at first. A woman's face, too close to the lens, a shadow for an eye. Then audio found its footing, Camilla's voice again. If you are hearing me, the house has chosen. Not me, not my sister, not the men who buy our grief and sell it back as law. The house. Listen carefully, Elena, if that's the name they gave you. There are two truths in this family, one that was written and one that was bled. The image wobbled. In the background, a lullaby, the music box melody, tinny and relentless. Marcello demanded a son. He sent Viter to do what cowards do, dirty work and clean clothes. I tried to stop it. I lit the fire to drag the truth into daylight. But fire doesn't choose. It eats. The camera tilted. For a second, a nurse's uniform crossed the frame, then a hand, then smoke. If you have the metal case, you have what matters. The footprints don't lie. The nurse won't either. The screen cut to a still image, a signed statement filling the frame. The emergency light made the ink look like fresh blood. Elena read silently, lips moving, then aloud. I, Nadia Faraz, certify that infant labeled A bore a congenital mark upon the left wrist in the shape of a crescent. I refused an order to exchange identity bands. I was dismissed. I retained copies of the original forms and delivered them to the sister of the mother, at her request, for safekeeping. Cecilia pressed a hand to her mouth, sobbed once, then said the words like breaking open a window. Elena is mine. The lighter's flame wavered. For the first time, Viter looked smaller than the room. He snapped the lighter closed. Then you understand, madam, that if she is yours, she's also your weakness. Public shame, legal challenges, shareholders smelling blood. I can still fix this. A statement, a donation, a narrative, or... He stepped closer, voice soft as poison. We burn the case, the tape, the pages, and we go back upstairs and pretend the storm never happened. Elena picked up the metal case with both hands, as if weighing the last decade on a scale. For 5 years, she said, I mopped the floors of my own childhood. I carried trays past rooms that should have been mine. I cleaned the glass of a portrait that was hiding my name. She put the case down and looked at her mother. I don't want to own this house to punish it. She turned to Viter. I want to empty it of you. Something ancient in the stone seemed to approve. Clara moved, quick and decisive, and blew out the candle over the open pages. The sudden darkness swallowed the red light and their faces left only outlines. In that instant, Viter lunged. Paper hissed. The lighter flicked. A tongue of flame kissed the corner of the nurse's statement. Elena didn't think. She threw the metal case. It struck Viter's hand with a crack, sent the lighter skittering under the table. The flame licked the stone and died. Viter swore, reaching down, but Clara kicked the lighter farther into the dark, with the accuracy of someone who'd practiced survival in tight spaces. Cecilia stepped between Viter and the table, posture regal and terrible. You will not touch my daughter's name again. He straightened, breath feral. I built your power. You leased it, she said. It was never yours. From the staircase, a new sound rose, a chorus of steps, urgent and many. The staff, drawn by thunder and rumor, and the scent of endings. A security guard shouldered into the vault with a flashlight. Its beam rolled over faces, pages, the steel door yawning to the hidden room. Behind him, the police siren coiled closer, dopplered by rain. Viter's gaze ticked from light to exit, exit to evidence, evidence to Elena. He calculated in silence, the way men do when faith is inconvenient. Run, Clara said to him, voice tired. That's what cowards keep for themselves. He didn't. He squared his shoulders instead, composing a mask. Madam, he said, with a bow too slow to be respectful, Call me when you remember what I saved you from. You saved me from nothing, Cecilia answered. You postponed the bill. The first officer entered, rain polished on his jacket, radio spitting static. We received a call about a disturbance, possible arson. Is everyone... Cecilia didn't take her eyes off Vitor. Officer, you'll want to seize what's on this table, and the man in the charcoal suit. His name is Vitor Duarte. He has a lot to explain. On what grounds? Vitor asked, but too softly now. Fraud, coercion, destruction of medical records. Attempted arson, Cecilia said, voice even. Then, after a beat, and theft of a child's life. The officer looked at Elena, then at the half-burned corner, then at the footprints. The wrists turned, the cuffs clicked. As they led Vitor past Elena, he leaned in, a final strike without teeth. You'll hate this house by morning. Elena didn't flinch. Then I'll learn to love it differently. They took him. Silence filled the shape he left behind. Clara set the candle back on the table and relit it. Her eyes wouldn't meet Elena's. I will accept whatever you decide, she said. Prison, dismissal, exile. I have carried too many keys. I don't know how to hold anything else. Elena looked at her, really looked, past the iron, past the lies, to the woman who had, once, run through fire with a baby against her chest. You owe me the truth, all of it. Every room, every night, every order you followed and every one you gave. You'll tell it. Under oath if needed, but not as a servant. Clara swallowed. As what, then? As a witness, Elena said, and a penitent. Clara nodded, tears slick in the corners of her eyes. Yes, senora. Don't call me that, Elena added softly. Not tonight, Cecilia took her daughter's hand. The red light seemed to ease, less hostile now, as if the house had exhaled its last secret and wanted, finally, to sleep. What happens now? Cecilia asked. Elena lifted the footprints again. The crescent on Infant A's heel looked back at her like a moon that had decided to be a knife. Now, she